It's been about 2 years since I applied for art school, and one of the things I did when I was applying was look up any and all portfolio videos that I could find. I saw a lot of paintings and drawings and sketches, but I didn't really see very many portfolios that were multimedia based. So for somebody whose main work up until that point was in photography and film and then a little bit of digital design, I was really struggling to find what I should be using to apply to school. So hopefully this video, which is a multimedia portfolio tour, is useful for anybody out there who was in a similar situation to me, because I know there are not very many videos like this online. The portfolio requirements for the program I applied for were that you could include 10 pieces of your own original work, up to 10 pieces, you didn't have to do that many, as well as you had to respond to 3 different prompts. So, without waiting anymore, here is my portfolio. So this photo series was called Ephemeral, and there was photos Ephemeral 1 through 7. I think this is number 3 or 4. The photos were long exposure photographs of my friend waving a translucent scarf around in the forest, which I then took and layered and combined in Photoshop. So the photo I included is actually like 4 or 5 photos stitched together, and it has this weird surrealist feeling that I really liked with this series. The whole series was meant to tell the story of a person undergoing significant change and becoming somebody new at the end of that experience, and I picked this photo just because out of all of them I thought it was the best one. The second piece that I used in the portfolio was one I had only made a few months before, and I'd done it as part of another university's program when I was kind of shopping around where I wanted to apply for. The in-person workshop day had everybody undergo designing an app from the very first initial ideas. We were all given a prompt to this second stage that you see here in the top right. Those bottom stages that are done in color, I started in this workshop day, but it was only like 4 hours long, so I obviously didn't finish those as part of that. I finished those a couple months later. Sometimes you'll see in fine art portfolios, instead of something like this, it might be a really rough sketch, or they might have, one version of the final piece, which is the sketch and the initial line art, and then you'll see the final piece beside it, stuff like that. I think it's really good to show that because it shows how you think and it shows how your ideas can change from the start to the end, which is super important. The third piece that I included was an actual real-life drawing that I had made, one of only 2 that are in this portfolio, which I'm holding a microphone as I try to flip through, so it's a little awkward, which is this piece right here. So this is just a bunch of Micron pen tests that I did when I first got this sketchbook and I first got Micron fine liner pens. I wanted to see what kind of textures I could make with them, what sort of patterns could emerge. And the end result is that all of the pens were dead after I made this piece, so I got to learn how they worked on the page and what kind of things I could create with them. This photo was taken, it's just a CD with raindrops on it that I used an eyedropper to put water on, and then I used a macro lens and created a black backdrop. I think that's just a shirt or something. I really don't know what I used to make the black backdrop, and I wish I had my behind the scenes photos still, but I don't. But it's really funny because if you were to take like one step back from this photo, you would see that it was just done on my kitchen table with a little cheap desk lamp and a CD and some water drops. I don't know where I got the idea to do this photo, but I love how it turned out. I think it looks so cool. I am still really proud of this photo. I think it looks awesome. So in my portfolio, as well as having the 3 fine art pieces, I also had 3 digital pieces that I wanted to try to space out. The first one was the app I showed earlier, and then I have another one near the end of the portfolio. So this one went right in the middle, and this I made quite literally right before finishing my application. These are a series of DVD covers that I made for a Christmas present for my parents at the time. There was more, but these were my favorite ones that I decided to include, and they're just spoofs on the Criterion collection for film. I got a bunch of DVDs that I thought they would like, and then I took all of the sleeves out and designed brand new ones that were still in the style of the original Criterion collection, but then also all fit under this really cool minimalist theme. So this next piece is another drawing I did with Micron pens, as well as some highlighter. That's what the green is. And I really like this piece. Again, it fits with the abstract, colorful, but still black and white, kind of minimalist color palette style that I had going on when I was first starting to draw. I've seen a lot of pieces like this on Instagram, actually, after I made this, but at the time, I was just really experimenting with different lines on the page and how can something have movement while still being stationary, and all sorts of things like that. I'm sure if you want to draw something like this, you could easily find how to do it on Instagram. It's very easy. It just takes a really long time to get all those lines looking exactly as you want. So this piece here is the only painting that I have in my entire portfolio. I do have one in the responses to the prompts, but this is the only piece I had before that is a painting. So this painting started as something I made for a work paint night. The company I worked for at the time of making this would just like buy canvases and supplies for everybody, and whoever wanted to could join and make paintings. It was super fun. I played a bit with just different values, but still trying to keep everything looking cohesive, and the painting itself was inspired by the movie A Ghost Story. The writing here is, for anyone who's seen the movie, there's like a little note one of the characters writes to another character, and you never see what it says on it, but I read somewhere that supposedly the note said, "I know you're here." This is something I really love. It's right above my desk, so I see it every single day, and I'm just so happy with how the texture turned out in here. I used a little bit of like a sand texture that you can mix with paint to just give this a little something extra. And there's some like white paint splattered around here as well, just to give the painting a little more than white on black, but still keeping it within the look that I wanted to go for. So this is the final graphic design piece in my original 10 pieces. This is a poster for a short film that I produced, I think after I applied to art school. This poster was made just to advertise the short film when we were posting it online to find actors or when we wanted to share anything related to it, and it ended up being the final poster because we never made anything new. This piece goes kind of hand in hand with the first piece in the portfolio. This one doesn't have a title, but it is a similar sort of Photoshop collage, surrealist sort of thing. I took this in, I believe, grade 11. The mirror and the whole setting is actually in my grandmother's house, and she had lived in that house for 50 years, and she unfortunately had to move out of it. But before she did, once everything was taken out of there, I went in there with this friend and took some photos just because the house looked so creepy and empty, and especially since it was a place I was so familiar with, to see it like that was just so jarring. And I tried to capture that feeling in this photo here of looking at yourself or looking at a situation or a place that you think you know, but then not being able to recognize it. The final piece that I included in my portfolio is actually a video. So this is a short film that I made near the end of 2017, and it kind of goes hand in hand with the Ephemeral photo set because it's the same sort of theme and the same aesthetic. It's just a short film instead of a photo series. I really wanted to include something film related just because I mentioned in my application I had gone to film school, but this is the only thing I had directed that I felt worked with the aesthetic of my portfolio, as well as it was the shortest thing I directed. So I included this short film. It's called Vision, and you can watch it at this link here. So then the 3 prompts I had to respond to were: what keeps you up at night? Without showing any photos of your home, show us your home. And if you could design something to go at the center of a town square, what would you put there? So there was no real limitations on these prompts from what I can remember, other than just respond to them, and I think you could use any medium at all if you wanted to. I might be wrong there, but I'm pretty sure you could use any medium. So because I had a very multimedia theme with my portfolio, I wanted to keep that going with the 3 prompt responses that I used. So the first response is this painting here. I hope it's all in the camera. If it's not, I'll just put a photo up somewhere here. But this is, again, very surrealist, kind of spooky, which is, in case you couldn't tell, very much the vibe of my work. What I created here is just somebody thinking with sort of creepy stuff pouring out of their eyes, as well as all the things that I tend to think of, or the themes of things that I think of when I can't sleep at night. I don't know if you can tell, there's some pink glitter in the background as well to kind of create like this space feeling in the background. I didn't want to just have solid black because I think that's just not enough texture for a piece like this. So sort of similar to the ghost painting, you can see I have like some white splatters in here as well, just to give it that extra something. The second prompt, which was, we'll come back to those, was show us photos of your home, or show us your home without actually showing photos of your home. The idea was supposed to be, if you're in a city and you're looking up and you see all these skyscrapers around you, how does that feel? And that kind of feeling of being very small in a big city. I live in a pretty big city, so that was what I was intending to accomplish with all of these buildings here. I did some fun little patterns on them. I really like this kind of crossword pattern, as well as how these guys are looking over here. And then for some of the buildings, I also used little collages of photos I've taken while living here. And then in the background here, you can't really tell, but the background of everything was these torn up magazines from the library that were in all these different languages, because Vancouver is a very multilingual city. And I wanted to really incorporate all of the languages I feel connected to here, even though I only speak 2. And I collaged them together. And then I really wanted you to be able to see that with this piece, but because the contrast was so off, like you could not separate these buildings or like these ones at all from the background with it being so dark, because it was basically black with white text, I did a layer of rice paper on top of it just to separate things a bit more and create better contrast. The final piece that I created is easily my least favorite out of anything in my portfolio. I really struggled to think of how to respond to the prompt, and in the end, I didn't really respond to it all that well, but I was trying to go for like this cool hand-drawn map feeling of a city while pointing out cute little things that might exist throughout the city. So I did these drawings, as you can see here, in pencil. Or not in pencil, I did these drawings in pen, and then I didn't even have a scanner at the time, so I took photos of them with a flash on my phone, and then I colored them digitally. This was also before I had a tablet, so those are colored with a mouse, so that makes them like 5% less awful. It's kind of meant to be any city. The map itself, I believe, is of Revelstoke, which is not where I live, but I just liked how it was laid out with the river going through it and then the different areas for the city and the streets. But I really don't like it because I don't think that the map itself, like the base map with the streets, really matches the theme of the drawings. Like, I wish I had just hand drawn the whole thing, including the map, and assembled all those elements together in post on the computer. I think that would have looked a lot better, and it just would have fit nicer, because my main issue with this piece is that none of it really fits together. And I mean, it doesn't really address the prompt very well. Like, I have a town square, and then I have the little elements that I'm like, oh, these are in the town square. Yeah, okay, it was a loose interpretation of the prompt, and I don't have an issue with that. I think that schools are looking for kind of a loose interpretation of the prompts they offer. I just wish that I had hide this all together better. Looking at it now, I don't actually hate it as much as I remember hating it, but I'm not a big fan of this. And for some reason, this is what I ended my portfolio on technically, which was not a good idea. I think you should start your portfolio strong and end strong. And if you're doing a multimedia portfolio, I think you should try to divide up the different mediums that you're working with. But I do think you should end strong, and this was not strong. I think I should have ended with the first prompt that I did, the painting, but whatever, didn't matter because I got into the school anyways. So that's my entire portfolio. I think that anyone out there who is trying to apply for art school in general, but multimedia, digital media, definitely don't be discouraged if all you see online for portfolios is like beautiful paintings and sketches, because you don't need to be a fantastic illustrator to get into every single art school program. As you can see, you can get in with whatever you want as long as you're happy with it and you feel like it represents you well.